Year 6. For today's maths lesson, we're going to begin as we normally would with a maths lesson. So for 5 minutes, I'd like you to pause the video and try and solve these 9 questions. I'm going to carry on now. If you've had a go at those, you can either double check them with a calculator or you can send them through as a picture of that work and I'll have a look at your attempts at those. That's just to reiterate a previous skill. So today we're thinking about the 4 quadrants rather than just the first quadrant that we were looking at before Christmas. So the first quadrant was where the X and the Y value were both positive. So it's the one to the top right of these 4 quadrants. We're now thinking about the other 3 quadrants as well. So the first quadrant's there, the second to the left, the third bottom left, and the fourth as the bottom right. So the 4 quadrants. Now we look at 3, 4. Both these values are positive where the yellow cross is in the first quadrant. If we look at the value here, the green value, which is in the 4th quadrant, we can see that the X value is positive as a 3, but that the Y value is a negative as a negative 4, and therefore it's in the 4th quadrant. We can see again with these other marks, the red, the black, and the purple points on the other quadrants, if we can now identify where they are. So pause the video, have a look, see if you can identify where they are, please. As we go through now, you can see if you are correct or not. The red one is 7 beneath or 7 along to the left hand side of the 0 mark on the x-axis, so -7, and then it's 4 at the positive at the y. Sorry, 3 at the positive of the y. So it's -7, +3 in that second quadrant. The black cross is marked at the point which is 6 along the x-axis beneath the y, so -6 on the x-axis, and then it's also a negative value along the y-axis, so -6, -5 in that third quadrant. You can see there that the negatives are both for the third quadrant, the positives both for the first quadrant. And finally, the purple value is also in that 4th quadrant, so positive value along the x, so we can see a positive value of 8, and a negative value along the y-axis, -7, so +8, -7. Okay, you have a look at the orange, blue, grey, and green crosses here. If you have a think about which quadrant each one will be in, so pause it, have a think. Hopefully you've identified that the green cross would be in the first quadrant as both those values are positive. So if you have a look as we go through it, I'm going to bash through these ones because otherwise these red lines would take all day. But you can see whether you were correct or not, and you can see that green one as that first quadrant. There's a bit of a pattern that emerges, which we can look at on the next slide, where we see that with these quadrants, there's certain features for each quadrant. So the y coordinate is positive and the x coordinate is negative. It becomes then something which will be in the second quadrant. If the x coordinate is positive and the y coordinate is negative, it would be in the 4th quadrant. And we can see with the other features, the second and the first quadrant there. Okay, so here we go. This wraps up that the 2 positives will be in the first quadrant. The negative x and the positive y would be in the second quadrant. Positive x and the negative y would be in the 4th quadrant, and both negatives is in that 3rd quadrant. Okay, so having a think now about these 4 marks, the orange, the green, the blue, and the grey, where would they be? Hopefully the orange is nice and simple because of those 2 positives. Hopefully the grey is nice and simple because of those 2 negatives. Maybe the green and the blue might be more challenging. Pause it, have a think. Looking through now again, you can see where the orange was. You can see the negative for the green shows that the green would be in the 4th quadrant, the negative along that y-axis. The negative along the x-axis for the blue tells us it's going to be in the 2nd quadrant, and finally the 2 negatives for the grey tell us that's going to be in the 4th quadrant, in the 3rd quadrant, sorry. Okay, so looking around here, we've got an isosceles triangle. As you know from your previous work, an isosceles triangle is a 3-sided polygon which has 2 equal length sides. So we've got here 2 equal length sides split down the middle, and therefore the fact that it's 6 away on the x-axis and 6 away on the y-axis of 4 away from the center on the x-axis tells us that it's going to be the same into the next quadrant. So if you think about that, you can hopefully identify what the missing coordinates are. So pause, have a think. And hopefully you got that it's -6 along that y-axis, but now rather than -4, it's now +4 along the x-axis. Okay, 8 points for you to work out here. Pause the video, try and identify where these are. I'll have a look at that at home, so if you could try and send those through as a screenshot or something, or a photo of any work you've done, I'll have a look at those at 8 for you to do. So thank you for having a go at those. What I'd like you to think about now are 2 questions. We will look at the answers for these. So read the questions, see if you can work through what's going. So pause while you work through them. We'll go through the first one now. So if we see the diagram's got 2 identical triangles, the coordinates of 3 points are shown, so we can hopefully see there that we've worked through that it's 9, 7. Hopefully you got that. Maybe you found it more challenging. The information for the second one was split up. Well, we've got the idea that A to B is 2/3 of the way from A to C, and therefore we need to go an extra third from B to C to find out where C would be. And if we've worked that through, we can hopefully identify that it's 12, 5. Okay, so an additional 4 to the 8 and an additional 5 along from the 0 for the value of the y point. Okay. Your next challenge now, I'm going to stop the video. Your next challenge is to have a go at the worksheet that's been sent through. If you have a go at doing that, if you could take a photo or take a scan of it, and I'll have a look at your completed work. Well done for listening today. I know this is strange. I look forward to seeing you all in person.